are on to our second panel now of the business track. And this is definitely one that I've been personally looking forward to, for sure. The next topic is women in e-commerce leadership. I think it's always great to have a session to celebrate women in leadership and celebrate women in technology. There is some way to go in terms of gender diversity. For example, 22% of AI professionals are women, and only 8.2% of CEOs in the top 500 Forbes are female, but everything's heading in the right direction. So really looking forward to this topic that we're touching on today, and for us to learn from some inspirational ladies. So this is going to be hosted and moderated by Bernice Ong, who is Partner Sales Manager, Southeast Asia at Adobe. And then Sushma Vyas, COO at Ranosys, is one of the panelists. And Pradeepa Arjunan, Senior Principal Consultant Architecture at Accenture. So ladies, please join me on stage.
Right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Women's Only panel. The topic that we have here for today is women in e-commerce leadership. I'm Bernice, and I will be your host and moderator for this session. Joining me here on stage are Sushma and Pradeepa, and I would like to give you ladies a few minutes to introduce yourself. Please tell us more.
Thank you, Bernice. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. This is, of course, like what Annie said, close to an heart topic for all of us. I'm Sushma, introduced formally as CEO of Ranosys. Besides of that, what I take pride in is also being part of building this e-commerce community. For past over a decade, we've been connecting, talking about e-commerce, or like Salman said this morning, e-commerce becoming just commerce. So that's one thing I really take pride in. I love connecting with customers, building relationships, and making sure what we deliver is at part and keep learning. So that's briefly about myself, based in Singapore for about 20 years now.
Hi, I'm Pradeepa here. Sorry. So I'm working with Accenture as a solution architect for e-commerce systems, right? So I was heading the e-commerce division previously with Singapore Post e-commerce, and I was driving the technology stream for the e-commerce division of the Singapore Post. So now I'm doing the solution architecture for some exciting clients in the Southeast Asia, and excited to be part of the team and part of the event as well. So looking forward for more interesting and exciting discussions ahead.
Thank you, Sushma. Thanks, Pradeepa. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we will do this afternoon is examine a few statements which I found and came across while preparing for this topic. And it will all center around women's roles in leadership in e-commerce, as the title suggests, but looking into the lens of women as buyers in e-commerce, as sellers in e-commerce, and putting it all together, what is the total contribution of women to the e-commerce industry in Southeast Asia? So if we can have the next slide, please. Okay, this is a statement from iPrice and a report that they've done in 2021 to 2022. So iPrice.com.sg is a money-saving digital tool. It is where I would go, for example, if I happen to be looking for a pair of sneakers, I go to iPrice.com.sg, and it will give me a few different websites that sell that sneaker. And obviously, I go for the cheapest option, right? So they did a study from January 1st, 2021 to March 13th, 2022, and compare that data with the same period during the previous year. So they looked at how many of these customers are women versus men, and how many then how many sign-ins, or how many new accounts turn into checkouts, into paying customers. And what they found was that there's a big proportion of women more than men. So on their website, for example, let me just read out the statement. In 2021 to 2022, there's been 54% more women compared to male shoppers, who only amount to a 25% increase. So actually, women being a primary buyer in the e-commerce industry is not a surprise. I think at home, between me and my husband, I shop more, definitely, and he just answers the door and opens that to the ninja van. But I'd like to draw the attention back to this report because it's really interesting, right? As of late, it's been noted that more women are shopping because they have more spending power, and Asia's seen a marked increase in women's spending power, right? There's also a large female population, especially in countries like the Philippines, where the ratio of female to male is 64 to 36. So the other interesting fact is that women are more likely to have discovered a brand during the pandemic and continued to patronize that brand after the pandemic. So given this information, the amount of more women shopping and the amount of more loyalty coming from women, and I'd like to open this question now to anyone, either Sushma or Pradeepa. What are some tactics or growth strategies that you would suggest to our audience today targeting women?
You brought a good point, because I was also reading the other day, Bernice, and very similar to what you said, the trend in women shopping increased. Or if you see standalone, the total, there is a consumer power, there's a purchasing power that female would hold, which is about 70+% of consumer purchase is done by female across the world, globally, be it because household purchases, fashion, a lot of things. Plus it adds that they are the ones who don't shy away from the nitty-gritty, from the returns, from the, giving feedback on very finer details of whether it's a household stuff or fashion apparel, anything for baby stuff, kids, because they are the one massive users of all this stuff. So just joining to the statement of how it has increased in comparison, and by and large it is very high. So in a sense, e-commerce became the powerhouse or the power bank since past 2-3 years, and we are seeing that with that, when we are studying the data statistics, close to 70-75% of women are the consumers. When we talk about ways around this, so when they hold the purchasing power, they hold the way how to, now we've been talking about experience-driven, giving them the experience, study them in your businesses. Make sure we have more female in marketing, in wherever strategy is being decided, where how do we gather experience and how do we take feedback from them, how do women think, how do female think, the audience collecting their way of purchasing and influence them by getting similar gender in senior position in these areas. And it is happening actually. I'd say if I study the trend of past 10-15 years where we've been in commerce, from women entrepreneurs having smaller online presence, e-commerce, now in larger enterprises, we do see, even when we service our customers, we do see in marketing positions, in business positions, in customer relationship positions, a lot of female when it comes to fronting e-commerce. So that is happening, but that needs to happen a lot more, and I am sure, Pradeepa, you'll have a lot more to add.
Yes, so there are two sides of the coin here, right? So one is the consumers and the women, the other one is the leadership in the e-commerce, right? So when we talk about the growth strategies for the women consumers, so they are the most influential segment, right? So on the e-commerce itself. So what I think is, like, you might want to understand the psychological profile of the women, because they come from, they play multiple roles, right? So from social to cultural to business. So you might want to understand the psychological profile of women when you do the segmentation for like when you want to target the women audience. So that is very important, right? So you how much of personalization are you trying to achieve, and how much have we achieved so far? And we have a long way to go in that. when we talk about, like targeting the women consumers, right? So when we want to achieve the business goals and the targets, right? So the personalization plays a very important role when we talk about the growth strategy and, like marketing strategy for women consumers. The other side of the coin is the women in e-commerce leadership, and how are we going to, like strategize the growth, like in this stream, right? We want to bring the people from this side, from consumer side to this side, right? And when they come from this side to this side, they are able to better understand the problem statement, right? They are able to visualize what happens, right? So they are more influential. And when the influential power comes from here to here, I can influence my whole family if I want to buy something, right? So when that influential power gets shifted from the consumer to the leadership, I think it plays magic, right?
I love it. So hire a woman to understand a woman. That's my takeaway from both your insights. All right. So we've looked at women as buyers in e-commerce. Now we go to the other side of, take a look at the other side of the picture and look at women as sellers in e-commerce. And so in the next statement, you'll see that this is a study that, again, or a report that this time is conducted by the International Finance Corporation under the World Bank Group. And what they found was, owing to the fact that e-commerce allows women value flexibility, additional time with friends and family, there's a lot more women owners, women brand owners, women merchants who are taking their shop fronts online, or their storefronts online. And then also with the rise of platforms such as Shopee and Lazada, we are seeing business models change, such as in technology and in logistics, for example. And this is a question to either one of you. With the rise of women-owned businesses online, how do you see the shopping experience will change for everyone?
So there's one thing I would like to add as well, Bernice. Good and encouraging, plus a little difficult thing that we need to solve is women participation, entrepreneurship in e-commerce is increasing. At the same time, it needs to increase a lot more because if you talk about informal businesses or small businesses, it's much more than men that women run those e-commerce shops, online presence. But if you talk about, for example, Fortune 500 companies, less than 5% of those are women-led, or seeing them at the top. So coming to your question of what would be the trend? How do we? What changes do we see in e-commerce as an industry if that changes, right? If that more female coming in either senior leadership role or entrepreneurship in e-commerce, what impact do we see in the industry as such? One is, of course, your research data itself says it will increase everyone's participation, the experience, the revenue itself, it will increase. What I feel and believe is that what we are talking right now about the experience, the emotion, it is going to increase, get better a lot faster if that happens. Because I don't want to be judged as sexist, but all of us have, at some level, there is an expertise, there is an ingrained emotion, reading sense that a female would have. And when we talk about experience, it links to emotion. When we talk about leadership in today's modern age, it links to being open to be vulnerable about your weaknesses. So today, the e-commerce has reached a level where if you and I have to serve a customer, if I don't share my vulnerabilities, my problems, if you don't share yours, it's difficult to provide that great experience to the end customer. And female, and that's by study, are believed to be more open I mean, as we say, they cry a lot, but otherwise they are more open to be vulnerable, flexible in sharing problems, which is where they get solutions, because you stand up and speak up and share your problem. You get so many hands and so many people offering solutions. So that is one thing that I believe, and I think it's going to change the experience-driven commerce dramatically, the personalization, or we call which is linked to emotion. It is going to change that dramatically. Numbers are there, and I mean, that's what my take here would be.
Yes, so connecting to the point that Sushma was talking, right? So it's going to bring in a healthy competition, right? It's going to be a very, edge-to-edge competitive front when it comes to the technology itself, at least, So, and when we talk about that, it is also our responsibility to encourage that competition, right? And that is when, from consumer segment, we get competitive features and, attractive, and the trend grows. The industry grows, right? And I think from technology side, it is a huge responsibility to enable women entrepreneurs. And how are we going to do that in the sense, all right? So addressing the small and medium merchants, the SMEs, and even the micro, small women entrepreneurs who wanted to do the e-commerce from their home at the flexibility of, working from anywhere, and they wanted to, address their family and all those things. How are we going to help these kind of entrepreneurs from technology side, right? And that becomes a very important role for technology to do, right? So what kind of ancillary services are we going to develop to encourage this segment to participate more in this industry? Right, so what kind of services are we going to provide? It is not just developing a portal or, setting up a platform for them to sell the product. I think it's more than that. So we might want to help them to, do an end-to-end e-commerce business. Right, not just setting up a portal or where you display a product and then, they don't know what to do after that. Yes, I display my product, and when an order comes, how do I materialize it? How do I get my money back? And how do I ship it? And how do I handle my returns and customer care? There are a lot of things, right? So how are we going to help these kind of small problems for women who do not have much exposure to these kind of streams, right? So from technology side, how are we going to make it easier for them? I think that becomes a huge responsibility for the technology stream itself to address this. And that is how the competition grows, and that is going to create a huge impact, right? When we come up with these kind of ancillary services to enable the end-to-end e-commerce, to promote this group of entrepreneurs, the industry sees a major growth itself, right? The experience changes for the consumers in a different way.
Yeah, that's great insight, because I love what you said, Sushma, about feedback, having that feedback loop. Women-owned businesses tend to probably play a listening ear to the customer. And then to Pradeepa's point, there's ancillary services, and there's a support network that we will see come to rise because of women-owned businesses, and that will lend to the shopping experience for everyone. Okay, great. I have something for audience interaction here. So who would like to guess as to what this number on screen is? And I have prizes for the prize of a guess. I wish that were mine too. What's that, sorry? Purchasing power of women in Southeast Asia? Or? Okay, that's possible. I wish that were true as well. All right. So this number actually pertains to what women can contribute to the e-commerce industry if there were more women sellers as there are men sellers today in Southeast Asia. So this study And by the way, the number is 280 billion. So it's an astonishing number, right? It is a great salary increase, sir. And actually, this is from the same study by the International Finance Corporation. They looked at women in Southeast Asia, particularly in Indonesia and Philippines, selling on platforms like Lazada, mainly Lazada. And they found that there are less women because of barriers to entry, such as access to legal, access to digital connectivity, access to financing, like loans, right? So my question here is, what programs can this community run more of to help provide this access to women, to have them start businesses, and help us get closer to 280 billion?
Sure. I think the first thing, Bernice, is the awareness itself. If me as a woman, Pradeepa, you as a woman, if we know this figure, we'll stand up and do hundreds of things to make sure this happens. So number one is really awareness, the power that they hold, making them aware what and how they can do is very important. That's number one step I think we should be, and all of us can do that once we start thinking in that direction. Another is, because you see, like we study, there is a push and a pull factor, right? Women come into a workforce or even e-commerce with that push factor. It's not as common, especially in Asian countries, that they would come with an idea of, okay, I have an idea in mind, it's an innovative idea, I want to do this, I want to invest so much. They come because either there is a need, they want to prove themselves, there's something that is pushing them to come into workforce, and right now it's a perfect timing where this e-commerce is booming, this economy can help them stay at home and manage, like Pradeepa said earlier, so many different aspects as a women, cultural, geographical, there's home, family, business, everything. With that and all this ecosystem happening, with these awareness programs and when we make them aware, with this push factor, they know that they can make a mark, make them more empowered to stand up. I mean, I'm a firm believer of the fact that everyone should know what they can, as a female, they can contribute, and then empower them to be able to step up rather than always pulling them up and helping them. Empower so that it becomes that DNA, it becomes an automatic chain that it'll happen on itself. So programs to be run would be Bond Connect, make them aware, and facilitate such that they can run these e-commerce businesses, they can get these funding to grow these bigger so the impact can be seen. That's what my take or my thought very strongly on these points would be. I'm always missing on the technology and innovation side, and I'm looking up to you for that, Pradeepa.
Yes, as Sushma said, right, awareness is very important, right? So we might want to have, these kind of forums are very important, and probably this community can, enhance the learning side, you might want to provide more learnings for these kind of entrepreneurs who really want to, come up in this stream, right? So how are we going to create that awareness, right? What are the forums that we are going to create to increase this awareness in this segment, and how are we going to enable them, right? How are we going to, make them really do the business from the theory to the actual set, right? So I think these forums must focus on those things, workshops and trainings and those kind of things. I think should be done for this segment, actually. Yes.
Yeah, and I think you kind of alluded to that in my previous question as well when you mentioned that the support network around women-owned businesses has to be there. Okay.
You might want to, educate them, they do not know what is the trend in technology, what are the trends in the fintech, what are the trends in the, in the marketplaces, how can I, get my product online in one day. Like, I don't have to wait, or I don't know anyone to teach me. So there are a lot of women there, like you enable them, you can see a different side of them. And, like it empowers them to grow their digital economy, like digital revenue as well. So this awareness and the learning path is very important to them. And, like these kind of community should contribute more on, like conducting trainings and, like creating workshops to educate them on the latest trends that they can leverage on. Those kind of stuff is very important.
Okay, thanks for that. So clearly there's a lot of heart and leadership between the two of you combined together. The next segment is just rapid fire question, right? Like, I actually have one question. Just name me the first thing that comes to mind. Top e-commerce trend in 2023.
Personalization is what is going. It's going to become bigger. That's what I think. In terms of, that's what you're asking. That's your question, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Personalization, yes, for sure. I'll again copy Simon's line. There's no e-commerce. There's commerce, and that separation is gone now. It's commerce, personalization.
It's no more just e-commerce, as Sushma said, right? It's re-commerce and, like m-commerce, and there are so many commerce now. So it's just, like the superset is called e-commerce, yes.
That's great. All right. Well, thank you, Sushma. Thank you, Pradeepa. I have had a wonderful session. I hope our audience has too, ladies and gentlemen. Have insights that I was able to draw, and you found the session as insightful as I did. So we don't have to end the conversation here. Sushma, Pradeepa, and I are around all afternoon. Feel free to talk to us. We'd love to hear from you, and let's connect on social. So with that, I wish you all a wonderful rest of your afternoon at MMSG. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you so much.